let's touch on this one. Lois says, I have a disabled Moluccan cockatoo. If anybody doesn't know what a Moluccan cockatoo is that watches our live streams, that would be the same species of parrot that Rocky is, our 20-year-old shelter cockatoo. When I hold her and move her around the house, she will bite me if she sees my 6-month-old puppy. How do I stop the aggression? Be careful with the label of aggression, Lois. Labels are something, descriptions, adjectives that we put on animal behavior. We just talked about this yesterday, I believe in level 1. Labels can be inaccurate, and labels tend to let people think that they can't change the behavior. So I want to focus on your word aggression. Based on what you just said, I would not call that bite aggression. I would call that bite is a form of communication to you, and it is probably escalated to a bite because other behaviors your Moluccan has tried to convey to you via body language or vocalizations have not been accurately read. This is not uncommon. And we just got done saying in the Parrot Project, one of the things I used to hear all the time is, you're just going to get bit. No, we don't want to get bit around here. We don't like that kind of target training. That bite serves a purpose. Pay attention to all the antecedents meaning things that happen right before the behavior. For example, Rocky, our 20-year-old Moluccan cockatoo, we brought home when he was 8 years old, and he had a heavy history of biting, lunging, chasing. Those could easily be labeled as aggression. I looked at that and said, this is a well-formed form of communication for this animal. This animal has learned that that is what works. It is my job to step in now and teach it a different way of communication. So I would watch what Rocky would do right before he would chase me, because I was his primary target. I would watch what those behaviors looked like right before he would chase, lunge, or attempt to bite. I did not get Rocky out of his cage until I knew I could safely, meaning safe for me and safe for him, train him to go back into his cage. I did the same thing with Coco, the umbrella cockatoo here. I did the same thing with Willie, the turkey vulture. I do the same thing with pigs. I do the same thing with any animal. And one of the first things I will teach them is a target. So I can, target training helps me read the behavior of an animal if I do not understand that behavior. This week we have a 2-month-old porcupine getting ready to come in for training. I don't know anything about porcupine behavior. That is on purpose why I'm bringing it in. So I'm going to show people in level 2 membership project how I learn. It's not necessarily about the species or the species of the animal. It's about, I need to understand your body language. How do I do that? I do that through training. And I usually start out with a target and a recall, off contact. So back to what you were saying with Rocky, or with your Moluccan cockatoo, I would watch that animal's body language before it showed the undesired behaviors. I didn't know what the undesired behaviors looked like until they started happening. And I was like, well, what's this behavior we got going on here? Well, that didn't end very nicely. Nicely meaning it wasn't a good outcome for me. It's probably not a good outcome for the animal, especially if I'm trying to build a relationship with it. So I had to experience those things first to see what that behavior looked like, to understand that, okay, I don't want that happening again. So sit back. How am I going to put a behavior modification plan in place? One of the things, once I was able to pick Rocky up, so we were having 100% physical contact at that point. You watch for the body language, especially with a Moluccan cockatoo, when they are not comfortable. Their feather placement changes. They have those beak mufflers. Those are usually up when they're content or sleepy. And if you see a Moluccan cockatoo that's doing this, and then all of a sudden the feathers go whoosh, and they tuck in, and all the feather placement pulls in tight, you'll see body posture change. It either stands straight up, right? Because if they had that opportunity, they're taking a look at what's going on in the environment. Are they comfortable? If they're not comfortable, they're getting ready to book it. And in our care, a lot of times their form of locomotion is different. They don't have as many choices. This is why I try to show people how to live with animals by live with birds by not clipping their wings. Because once you clip those wings, all you're doing is changing the animal's body part, you're modifying body parts, not behavior. And a lot of times, if you are not modifying the behavior and you're implementing restrictions, you're going to see frustration and anxiety skyrocket. And when those two skyrocket, that is when people label it as aggression. So based on what you're telling me, Lois, it could be based out of fear, and it's happening because all former forms of communication and interaction did not work for the animal. So pay close attention to that, okay? Teach it another behavior. So to go back, because I don't have any more examples from you, Lois, so I'm going to use an example from me with Rocky. Rocky used to slide down his cage when I would walk in the room, and he would chase me. So I started redirecting because I knew he liked to chase different toys. You could be reinforcing a chase, or you could be redirecting behavior. I chose to use it because it worked. It was something the animal already did. So when I would walk in the room, I'd be prepared. I had a ball in my hand. I would throw a ball on the floor. You would see Rocky come down and look at me and then say, "Phew," and he would chase the ball. And then I would heavily, positively reinforce that behavior. But something else Rocky does is I taught him a way to tell me, no, I am not comfortable. And what he did, and I did that just by watching his body language. So he's on me. I would stand with him on me. And a lot of times with birds, raptors, any type of bird, I will keep my elbow bent and tucked into my side, because a lot of times people will have a bird right here, and I shape my hand based on the size of their feet. So Rocky is a big bird. I want him to have a good grip. Keep your elbow bent, because a lot of times I see people go like this. That just gives the bird a straight shot to your shoulder. If you are not comfortable, that is why I teach a target. Bird's beak starts looking towards your shoulder. Redirect it with a target over here. Instead of telling him what you don't want to do, I don't want him to do this, but I'm not going to tell him no, because the word no, I'm not giving him anything else to do. That can cause frustration and anxiety. So that's why I teach a target before the bird gets on my hand, so I can redirect behavior. And what Rocky will do to tell me no, I'm okay with the animal telling me no. I need to know you are not comfortable with this. If it is a behavior you need to do, that just tells me we need to take some serious steps back. Training needs to happen. But I need you to tell me no. I need you to tell me no, whether that's through a scream, a growl. I'm going to pay attention to those behaviors, because those are telling me that the animal's not comfortable. But one thing Rocky does, and this is all based on the individual animal. You can't just use this because it's a Moluccan cockatoo and it works across the species, because it doesn't. Each animal is its individual, just like we are. But one thing Rocky would do is he would turn his head towards me, and then he'd hit his beak to my shoulder. I was just like, whoa, I don't know what that means. but I'm going to take it as you're not comfortable. So I created that contingency. Contingency meaning if this, then this. If I feel this, I am backing away from whatever is new in the environment. And the more I did that, creating that contingency, the better line of communication that developed between Rocky and I. So when Rocky does this to me, that means no. That means, what does no mean? No means I am not comfortable with whatever you're approaching or wherever you're taking me or something new that has come into this environment. So I'm going to identify as fast as possible what is it that just happened in the environment. And I am either going to remove whatever that is or I'm removing us. Does that make sense? There's so many comments happening. Does that make sense? That's why I always say, in order to stop an undesired behavior, you need to identify what is the reinforcer behind that undesired behavior. It may be undesired from us, but it serves a purpose for the animal. Find out what purpose that serves for the animal, because once you find out what that purpose is, now you've identified the reinforcer. Once you have the reinforcer behind the undesired behavior, now you have the tools to use to change it. Okay, let's replace this behavior. And then the longer the undesired behavior has happened, usually what I find is, especially with parrots, because they live 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, the longer that undesired behavior has happened, it usually has to be on some type of maintenance plan. Meaning, like Rocky is out there vocalizing, and due to past experiences, I know what body language and what actions he's doing with that vocalization. His ARBs are coming back into place, abnormal repetitive behavior. Okay, hang on a second, Lois, because I want to expand on that. That is an abnormal repetitive behavior with a history of lack of enrichment prior to coming to me. Lack of enrichment, lack of choice, seeing something and not being able to get it, anticipation. So those behaviors, his ARBs, those will never, to the best of my knowledge, 100% go away. They will have to be on a maintenance plan. And what I see with Rocky's ARBs is something that is very common in the citizen, the parrot community, which is separation anxiety. Separation anxiety is not an easy behavior to change. And a lot of times with your separation anxiety, you've got maintenance plans. So the reason it's one of the hardest is because it takes continual work, data, documentation, observation. Watch those distant antecedents coming. Like he'll start picking his toenail. And when I see him start picking his toenail, it's like, if I don't interact and redirect this behavior right now, within 2 weeks, we're going to see ARBs starting to go out of control. He does this spin in his cage. So Lois says, I will work on targeting while holding. Not just that, Lois, I'm going to give you some advice. I would also work on, this is why I say, keep your animals used to change. You can keep your animals used to change in so many different ways. We just talked about this the other day in the Parrot Project with a blind macaw, okay? It cannot see. Introduce change in a really slow pace. And when you're introducing change, positively reinforce their staying calm during that change. Once you have an animal that's used to change, you have an animal that's set up for success, and won't be as stressed when things change in its environment. So you say you'll work on targeting while holding. Also, your Moluccan cockatoo, I am going to say it is probably fearful of your puppy. Pay attention to that. Puppies have a lot of energy. Your Moluccan may not understand that. It's too much movement and too much energy for your Moluccan. It is not calm. And I always tell people, where do you begin? Reinforce calm. Keep your puppy in the other room, behind a gate. Start as far away as possible. Your bird will tell you where to start. Understand what calm body language looks like and reinforce that calm body language as your target that you're training, Lewis, could just be 2 feet on my arm. So you don't necessarily need to get him to touch his beak to a stick. This is a target. Asking for a particular body part to touch an object, 2 feet on my arm, that's a target. And then that's a station, okay? Reinforce calm in very small steps. I also don't recommend different species interacting with each other. We just got done talking about this. I just shared a video on my personal Facebook page the other day that I was like, this could probably start some controversy, but I'm sharing it anyways because there's a very powerful message here. And it was dogs and pigs playing together. I shared that video and said, this is an extremely dangerous video to be sharing. This may look cute. Take the anthropomorphism out of it because cute kills. I know too many dogs that have severely disfigured pigs and have killed pigs. So do we keep multiple animals here? Yes, we do. And we always plan for an accident. And we never leave animals out unsupervised. And we make sure dogs are moved, birds come out, vultures moved, pig comes out, something like that. Okay. So a lot of the time it's the people that need trained. It's Tim, where are you? That's what it is all the time. That's what it is all of the time. It is our job as professional trainers to teach the people and give them the information they need to keep the best quality of health and care of the animals in our care. Yeah, Mano says, Mano's a wildlife educator focusing on raptors with Ohio Nature Education out of Johnstown, Ohio. I know the viewers and the followers here. I like to get to know you. She is also the one that brought Bellatrix, the Eurasian eagle owl, here for training. And she says, like all the videos on Facebook of people petting owls, that is a stupid video to be sharing. I'm sorry, I'm probably not very professional for me to say that, but it's mostly people don't, and I'm not knocking the people that share it, they just don't understand yet, so we can educate them. Those videos of people, the kid petting the snowy owl on the head, that is an extremely dangerous animal. I mean, not dangerous animal, that's an animal showing all kinds of forms of communication that is being ignored because that 5-year-old kid does not understand. I'm not sure why a 5-year-old kid is interacting with an adult snowy owl anyways. But that bird showed signs that owl was clacking its beak. That is a clear sign. I am not comfortable. I am nervous. And she was kissing the owl and the owl was beaking her face. May look like to the person that doesn't know owl behavior that this may look like a kiss. That's not a kiss. That's a target. That's going to end up bad. And I probably wouldn't doubt that that little girl got footed, meaning that's a big talons on that foot. And if this doesn't work and this doesn't work, just like the growl, and then this, if this doesn't work, that animal's going to move to what works. And that snowy owl probably moved to like this. And what is right in front of that owl's form reach? That kid's face. And what's probably going to happen is that owl's going to be put down for the uneducated. Yes, and the animal gets put down and blamed. So when your dog growls at you, pay attention to it. That growl is a form of communication.